Woke up today, the times they are a-changing, and the world's in need of saving, because we're losing hope. The silence screams, we're all separated, we're so isolated, and it feels so cold. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where there's more common sense in one episode than there is in an entire legislative session or a congressional session.
Wow, we're getting negative here.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm that negative, but Minnesota, yes. Feds, I still have a lot of hope.
Yeah,
it may be a little up and down depending on. I'm trying not to watch the nonsense that is in the paper or is coming from CNN or something like that. I'm trying not to watch that nonsense.
Well, we know we can't trust those outlets.
Yeah, and I think that. I've opposed one bill this entire time.
Yeah. Have they done more than one bill?
Other than the Lincoln Riley Act, I can't think of anything else that they've put through.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Actually, first off,
Yeah.
I know Bob Dylan sings that song. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So that was kind of a gimme there, Jay. But you probably thought
Bob
there was
Dylan.
like a 20% chance I'd get that wrong.
Well,
I don't know about the 60s, but I read history.
You're close. It was a Minnesota artist. So
Times Are Changing, that's not Bob Dylan?
no, that wasn't. It wasn't. The songwriter, I think, was thinking of Bob Dylan in that line.
God, now you made me look terrible. Rewind this and start over so I could. Who was it then?
Me.
You're kidding.
That's my song. Heaven Help Us off of my album.
Yeah,
So,
you Abbey Road.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's unbelievable. So you got yourself. Way to plug yourself now on.
Why
on
not?
Spot the Fly.
Somebody's got to do that.
All right. Well, anyhow, I still say Bob Dylan's the right answer.
Well,
Time is changing, right?
For all of our friends, you can go out to Spotify and go to Community Solutions Music from the podcast playlist and check out all the great lyrics that we are quoting at the beginning of each episode. And the lyrics should somehow reflect, or the title of the song reflect, what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I got to say something here before
Yes.
we get into the big, beautiful butt crack. What is Corinne Jean-Pierre?
Yes.
Is in the news. I don't know why, claiming to now have left the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
She's changing her pronouns.
Right.
And-
In the same way that Bernie Sanders has left the
Yeah.
Democratic Party.
And yet runs for the Democratic nomination all the time.
Right.
And do you think she expected, a primetime job at MSNBC and that's just not panned out? So
I heard she wanted a job on The View.
I heard that too. I don't know why you'd want to join that crowd.
No.
I mean, what does she bring that nobody else has there?
Yeah.
Everybody's a racist. Everybody's eating pizza. What does she bring that's not already there?
It's an echo chamber. Too bad it wasn't like a echo chamber because there's no floor and then they're all... Yes.
What I've heard about this, not that I'm paying that much attention, is that this is a book basically saying Biden shouldn't have dropped out.
Right.
I've heard rumors and there's also supposedly, and I find this totally uninteresting, that there's, tension between her and some people in the administration who didn't think that she was doing a good job and that she was a DEI hire. And of course, Biden never fires anybody.
Right.
And they wanted John, what's the guy's name at the Pentagon? Kirby. They wanted him to be the spokesman.
Well, here's a news flash for Corinne Jean-Pierre. You were a DII hire and you weren't good at your job.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so insulting to the people who actually earned the job,
Yeah.
no matter what color they were. We all know that's why she got the job. She didn't, and I tell you what, when she goes on a book tour, you think Jake Tapper got it from some people. she's going to get it from every angle because
absolutely.
I could just play tape day after day after day. Biden runs circles around me. Biden's, doing a decathlon. Biden's rock climbing today. I mean, it was one after another.
The man never sleeps.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't understand. I think she is trying to cash in on being incompetent and lying. And she
probably won't have another job in that field.
Probably not. I mean, she probably is going to be, doing the fries pretty soon because she just who's going to hire, who's going to believe her? Nobody. And you know what? I got to say though, press secretary is not a job I'd want to do. No. I don't like to talk for other people and. Mm-hmm. Are you doing what you're told to say? Are you? But I'm going to tell you straight out, Jay. I could not stand at a podium, knowing the country's watching me, and knowingly lie to. I don't care about the media,
absolutely,
but to the country at large. I
couldn't do it either.
I couldn't do it, and if she was being lied to, she should have quit. She should have said so. Yeah. That's what a person with character and integrity would have done.
Well, she's in Washington. She doesn't have any.
But my guess is this is going to increase the circular firing squad.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for Biden to die because, no offense, but that's when Ron Klain will write a book. He's too loyal to Biden to do it while Biden's alive.
Right.
And we'll find out the real truth probably then.
Yeah,
it may be years from now. But it's mind-blowing to me that I really seriously wonder how many books she'll actually sell. Because I wouldn't buy this if it was I wouldn't read it if it was sitting in a bathroom at the doctor's office and it was sitting I wouldn't pick it up.
No. But honestly now, who do you think wrote this?
A ghostwriter.
Yeah, you think it was a ghostwriter, or do you think she put it in ChatGPT?
The black book. Clearly, it was a ghost. But clearly, she's been working on it for months. You don't write a book in a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, she's been planned since January. I guess she was there till January, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so this is not a project but I also heard that when she was the White House press secretary, she actually had a PR person with her.
Really?
It was PR for the PR.
Oh, boy.
Which tells me she's in it for herself, looking for her next job, looking for her next. And it's just, I don't know what happens to people when they get power or when they think they're a celebrity. I don't know what goes through their mind, but it's pretty dang. I don't know how. It's funny. Here's the other part, though, that's angering me is I sat there and I watched the media defend her and the Democrats defend her. And attacks on her were racist, blah, blah, blah. Now they're all turning around and the same people are going after her. It's like the media's learned nothing. They just continue to learn nothing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they run cover. They run cover for whichever leftist is in power, and then as soon as they're out of power, they turn on them like a school piranha.
And I'll tell you what. I'll go back to George Stephanopoulos as one of the people who did this in the beginning when he worked for Clinton and wrote a tell-all book. He ended up after that at ABC.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a total. I mean, I don't want to call it a total betrayal because he has the right to write a book, but I mean. It was obviously done with the intention of promoting himself.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, I don't know. I'll tell you what, you know what's going to end up happening? They're going to have to sign like non-disclosure things when they go in.
Yeah.
And just say, look, you can't, I mean, Trump doesn't care about that stuff, but if I were in charge, I would do, you want to leave, that's fine. You want to disagree with me on something, that's fine. I can handle that. But what I can't handle is you profiting off knifing somebody in the back.
Yeah, it just shows such low character.
And we're going to see, look, and we talked about Biden's acuity in a previous, everybody's been talking about, the story's not going away. You're going to see a slew of this for a long time.
Yeah.
You're going to see, and I can tell you what, the Republicans in Congress have got to follow through on these threats. I mean, I know James Comer's been out there, but I haven't heard many others. And everybody needs to be testifying on no Robert Hur stuff that can be put in a box for 2 years. There needs to be hearings. It can't come from the Justice Department. It can't come from the Trump administration. It has to come, and these people have to testify under oath.
Yeah.
Jill Biden needs to be. There's no spousal privilege here.
Oh, no.
What's the spousal privilege?
Yeah.
She goes out and acts as the president. Where's the privilege?
Right.
I mean, okay, you don't have to talk about what you said, but your actions are not privileged.
Nope.
Their communication could be.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about official business, I'm not really sure where the line falls there. I'm sure we'll hear about it from the Greg Jarrett's and the Jonathan Turleys of the world when this starts. But they got a responsibility here to uncover this. This could take years to uncover.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if President Biden, and I don't wish his death, I don't mean that.
Right.
Although I think his cancer diagnosis is really bad.
Yes.
But I want his doctor under oath. How do you get a clean bill of health in March of 2024?
Good question.
How did an 82-year-old man not? I've had a PSA test. How did he not have one? Tell me the president of the United States doesn't do blood work?
I don't know. Right of refusal? I don't know if you get that when you're president.
Why would you not want to know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to throw something out there.
True. I guess that's one plausible thing, but it makes no sense. Yeah, you know what? I think I might have cancer, but I don't want to know. If I just keel over, at least I'll, the wife will know. The insurance is in the drawer over there. I mean, and I'll tell you what, the Bidens are doing just some of the dumbest things you could possibly do. They just go in a bunker, think they don't owe anybody answers. And this stuff just grows and festers, and I don't know why they don't get in front of it. It's going to come out. Yeah. It may take 2 years, but we're going to find out. The auto pen, we're going to find out all of it. So I don't know. I don't know what the end game is there. I can't even give you a multiple choice guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But getting on to the big beautiful bill. I'm actually semi-encouraged and I'm semi-discouraged.
Yeah.
Let me explain.
Okay.
I think that the two biggest priorities to me are the tax cuts from 2017 and the tax cuts that have been promised that everybody ran on in 2024.
Yes.
We have to get the economy, but part of cutting the deficit is a growing economy.
Yep.
I don't know that we can 100% cut our way to take some serious reform, some serious time, some serious change. I don't think you can do that in one bill. Okay. Let me ask a question, though, Jay.
Okay.
And yes, would I cut 40% of the budget if I could? Sure.
Yes.
But let me ask a question. Why are the only cuts we do? Why can this is the only bill we can do them in?
I don't understand.
So let's just say the big, beautiful bill, we pass the House's version, which we're not going to.
No.
The Senate isn't going to. I mean, we've already lost by my count, about 8 senators, and we only have one Democrat, Senator Fetterman.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 that I've heard publicly say that either they need to cut more or they don't like it. Or it's Rand Paul, it's Ron Johnson, it's Josh Hawley. Mm-hmm. It's a couple others. Not a surprise on the list. There's some that are kind of waffling. Okay, fair enough. But let's just say we pass the House's version.
Okay.
What stops us from writing another bill saying, okay, we made those cuts, now we're going to make more? Why is this the be all end all?
But my concern is this, and yes, we need to lock in all of the cuts, or we need to lock in the tax cuts. But the whole bill, I mean, it's raising the debt ceiling more than it should be raised, and on top of that, you are increasing spending overall. And it's ridiculous. It's stupid.
Well,
Okay.
The answer to that is yes and no.
Yeah.
The Congressional Budget Office puts out a projection, which they're never right on.
Right.
Okay. The Republicans are way under that projection. If you look at something like Medicaid is going to grow at about a third of the rate that the CBO says.
Right.
That's because they want to put on work requirements, and there's other things about. So they are, quote unquote, not making. See, again, this is the problem. You can't reform Medicaid and throw it in a bill like this. You know what I mean? You can't. You can't take a program like that.
It needs its own bill.
It needs its own. I think the Republicans are trying to. I've heard some of them say, "Look, we're going to start with this. We're going to start cutting the rate of growth. We're going to start." Not how I would do it.
No.
And yes, it's going to raise the debt ceiling. We raise the debt ceiling all the time. The question is, I keep coming back to this. Where are the other spending cuts? Where is the bill to get rid of the Department of Education? Mm-hmm. Where is the bill to codify all the DOGE cuts? Half of them are in here, half of them aren't. Where are the other half? Where is the repeal of the Green New Deal? There's some of that in here, not that much. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe we can't do it all in one bill. Okay, fine. Let's pass this and let's start another one. Screw your summer recess. Get your asses back to Washington and write another spending. That's the part that I don't understand. I don't understand why can't we do a spending cuts bill every month?
Yeah. They should be doing multiple cuts in spending, many bills. And then on top of it, you need to pass a number of bills that cut regulation, because that's what's going to spur business.
Yeah, there's some of that in this bill. Some of that President Trump's dealt with through executive order.
But it can't stay with executive order.
I would say
it's got to go into law.
I would say we're about 25% of the way through it, of what should be cut.
It makes me so frustrated with Republicans.
Well, I'll tell you what, the other thing that I think one of the big sticking points is that SALT stuff.
Yeah.
That
I get that.
Well, look, if I'm a Republican from California, I can understand why they're trying to deliver tax cuts for their constituents. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But all it really does is incentivize the big tax and spend states to tax and spend more.
Absolutely.
So I get why the Rand Pauls and the Tom Masseys don't like it. It doesn't benefit their states or their, it's basically, it's a special interest.
It's a giveaway to blue states.
It's what it is. Totally. It's wealth redistribution, if you really want to put it. Like I said, if I were a Republican from California, I'd try to get something for my constituents. I get it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not the way to do it. And to double that is really a sticking point.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that'll survive the Senate. I really don't think so. You got to remember, the Senate, okay, if I'm a senator from Mississippi, I've got no incentive to support that. And it's not like the House. There's more red states than blue states.
Yeah.
The red states can kill anything that goes to the blue states.
Absolutely.
So I just think that's going to have to be dropped from the House bill. I think that's going to go. I do think the House will pass what the Senate passes. I'm not concerned about that. I think that the one bill kind of came from Trump, Thune, and Johnson meeting and getting together and thinking they had a framework, and then the House added one thing after another, changed one thing after another, satisfied, we got to get this guy's vote, blah, blah, blah. I also think the problem in the Senate is what I would like to see the people who want more cuts. I mean, where are the amendments then? Write up an amendment. Don't go on a podcast.
Right.
Write up an amendment and put it on there.
Yep.
I just think that most people are generally on the same page, but there's no way you're going to write one bill that's going to satisfy everybody. Everybody's going to look at that and they're going to say stuff. They're going to see stuff they don't like.
Right. And the Senate's hoping to be done by July 4th.
Well, the latest figure is their goal now is $2 trillion in cuts.
That would be good.
That's the latest thing that's come out of the Thunes endorsed it.
Good.
So that's the latest. And that came from Axios, which is no conservative.
No.
That's not from the, Federalist. Okay. So I don't think it will be done by July 4th. I think you're looking at August 1st. I think the Senate is going to take their time, and maybe it's more important to get it right than to get it done quickly. What I want is, why can't we pass what we agree on?
Yeah.
You know what? Okay. Make Trump's tax cuts permanent. Boom. There's the bill. Let's just pass that, and then we can work on the other stuff.
Exactly.
And see, I don't get that.
I mean, I understand that the more bills you have, the more bills that have to get through committee. I understand that.
Yeah, the House had 11 committees working on this. You can see, because all the special interest stuff.
Right. Which is just infuriating. And I don't know. If this takes till August, are they going to get anything else codified out of President Trump's agenda?
No, not in this fiscal year, because the fiscal year starts October 1st. So no.
Right.
No is the answer. They're not going to take up a bill and pass it in September.
But as soon as you get past Christmas, it's an election year. They can't rock the boat on certain things.
They can for a short time. They can until like March or April, but they can't after that. Once spring comes, it's all
what's going to get through committee by then?
Well, you can get, look, if you want to get something through a committee, especially in the House, I think you can. I think Johnson can spin the wheels and get something through. Senate is more of a animal of its own. The committees have a lot more power. So I don't know. I mean, but again, this is what we could have passed 20 bills already. If we really wanted to. I mean, so, but look, this bill is going to look like this. So this is the negative. There's going to be 20 things we like and 50 things we hate.
Yeah.
And see, I don't understand why they're not doing the easy cuts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of that, but like, okay, no money to sanctuary cities.
Get it done.
There's 900 sanctuary cities. We've been threatening that since the 90s.
Yeah.
And we never follow through on it.
Pass a bill.
Do it now.
Here's the bill. There shall be no government money.
No federal government money.
Yeah, no federal
Not
government
1
money
cent for any
allotted
reason.
to any sanctuary city for any reason.
Yeah,
yes, that's your
period.
bill.
I mean, repealing the Green New Deal should be the easiest vote Republicans take.
Yep.
It's popular.
Yeah.
Green New Deal is, we built 10 charging stations with billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. That's not popular.
No.
So and again, there's some of that in there.
Yeah.
But there's not to the degree that there needs to be to really make an impact on the budget. Now, there is some good news when it comes to deficit. I think you're going to see some good news late in this fiscal year. I'm not sure tariff revenue is the greatest thing in the world, but supposedly that has doubled in the past 90 days. And look, you have to close the budget deficit, because that is the number one thing causing inflation, is printing money.
Yeah.
And so
that's true.
I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to pass. I mean, the worst thing they can do is nothing.
Yeah.
Like repeal and replace. I mean, worst thing you can do is do nothing. They've got to pass something.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to be something that look, here's the thing. This is not popular among certain Republicans, and people get angry at me when I say this. If we have a good economy and we're not at war, the Republicans have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to care that the cuts were 10% instead of 15%. If there's peace and prosperity, that's the key.
Right.
Now, do I want more than that? Yes. But they got to keep their minds focused on this. That a good, strong economy is the number one thing we need right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think people will be more tolerant of the cuts if things are going well. I think when you hear cuts when things aren't going well, that's a bit of an issue. I think people are still jittery from the Biden years. And I think Republicans, again, have failed on the messaging. They failed to get out in front and make those cases.
Right.
It's just always they fail on the messaging. They're right on the issues and fail on the messaging.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I tell you what, the economy succeeds. What are Democrats going to say? I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of, you got to keep your eye on the ball here, but it's frustrating. And I'll tell you, $2 trillion in cuts, I can get behind that. That'll happen, but I think you're going to have the House bill's not going to go forward. I think that's just
right.
I think that's just a given. But I do think the House will pass what the Senate passes.
Do you think, is it the House bill alone that is making Elon Musk angry right now?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I think that he benefits a lot from green subsidies.
Yeah,
and I think that's a bit of the thing. He's a globalist. I think he doesn't want a trade war. The corporate gods are the ones who profit from free trade the most.
Yeah.
And I just think, I think he's also taken a lot of fire for the cuts and isn't happy that they're not all there. He took the slings and arrows for a lot of these Republicans, and they haven't backed him up.
Right.
So I think there's probably a little bit of that, and who knows what it is.
I mean, he's a globalist, but he's not like a World Trade for.
That's right. He's not a Bill Gates. Yeah. He's not a Klaus Schwab. He isn't that.
Right.
But I think the DOGE thing is kind of his baby. And I think there was an understanding that he would kind of take the fire and give the Republicans some cover.
Right.
And I think that maybe he's mad at President Trump for not. Although Trump was pretty nice about it. I mean, people said they've had a back and forth. Trump's really not said much. Even today, he kind of backed off from trying to get into a little schoolyard spat. I don't know what it is. My guess is Elon's pouting, or he's upset that the Republicans aren't following through, which I can understand.
Yep.
There's a time and a place to say that to me.
Right.
But, he's not a politician. He's a guy who did a lot of work and to get paid for it. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where it's at. Again, I think the Republicans can't worry about one guy.
No.
But I do think all of the DOGE stuff should be put in these bills, because ultimately the executive branch can only do so much when it comes to spending. It's really the Congress that controls the purse strings.
Yes.
And if you don't codify it, then the next administration, we've seen this with executive orders. They just reverse. We'll open the border again.
Yep.
We'll ban drilling again. And that's another thing that they've got to do is take that power away. I think the president shouldn't have the power to just ban drilling on certain land.
Oh, absolutely not. The president should never have the power to do something that negatively affects the whole nation. Like that, when it's a staple and we need. I mean, banning drilling is akin to saying, "Oh, you can't grow soybeans." We use soybeans in everything. It's akin to saying you can't grow corn to a farmer. How much corn do we grow and harvest every year? You can't do that because it has such a negative effect on the economy.
Yeah, you have to let the market sort that out.
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, then they'll grow what the demand is. The market will adjust over time.
Right.
So, anyhow, so I make an official prediction that I say August before both houses pass both. Now that's an issue because I'm concerned about the no taxes on does that not start till next year? I mean, are people going to feel it right away?
Yeah, they need to make sure that that's prorated for.
Well, President Trump wants it retroactive.
That's what I mean.
Which I don't know that they can do. You could do it on your 1040, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
You could maybe do it there.
I think you can. I mean, I think you can make a law because you don't actually start, well, I suppose you look at it and the people who quarterly report their taxes are paying ahead on that kind of stuff. They would get a refund, I guess, at
True. I don't know.
April.
I don't know that they pay themselves too much overtime, but yeah,
some of them work tips, like your gig workers.
Oh,
and stuff like
that's
that.
true. That's true. Maybe you'd have to start it in January. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, I want people to feel it. I want people to have more money in their pockets.
Yeah.
You got a growing economy combined with a tax cut. I mean that, I think the tax cuts being permanent is underrated. What effect that's having? Everybody talks about it's the tariffs. It's no, you know what? You don't know the tax rate starting in January. It's really a problem.
Yeah.
It's really a problem.
Right.
Anyhow. So August is my official summer entertainment, Jay. It'll be summer entertainment.
Oh boy! So all this arguing and stuff is going to go on all summer.
Yes, but you know what? I'm okay with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with debating, ideas and how far to take something. I find that healthy.
Right.
To have that. I'm not afraid to have that debate. I'm not afraid to listen to if somebody wants to come out and cut more government and has good ideas, I want to hear them.
Yeah.
I just want them to do it, not talk about it.
Right. I'm tired of the talk.
Yeah. So anyway, Jay, a phenomenon
Yes.
has been going on for a long, long time, a very bad one.
Yes.
And it's worse now than I can remember in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And that's anti-Semitism.
Yes.
And I want to say something. Anti-Semitism is not disagreeing with Israel.
No.
It's not wanting peace. It's not disliking Benjamin Netanyahu, okay, or whoever. Yeah. That's not anti-Semitism.
Right.
Okay? It is this... I can't think of I'm trying to think of another sector of society that has had... What is it with Jewish people, Jay, that has... Why has this happened to them in particular?
This has been well, it depends what answer you want. This has been going on for thousands of years. This is not a new problem. This is not something that even happened in the last couple of centuries. Okay? This is something, or not centuries, millennia, I meant. This is something that is a spiritual problem. How deep do I go into this?
Well, give us the 30,000 foot view.
30,000 foot view. Let's go all the way back. Okay, so Israel really was born when you had 12 sons bear the names of the tribes of Israel, except for there's no tribe of Joseph that split into two tribes, two half tribes rather. So you have 12 tribes of Israel, and they were enslaved by Pharaoh because they were prospering. That is really where anti-Semitism started. They were welcome guests in Israel, or in Egypt, because there was a famine. And then what happened is that over the years, as Israel, they weren't really known as, well, I guess they did take on that identity, after Jacob had passed away, that they were Israelites. But what had happened is that they were enslaved because they prospered, and of course you had the Egyptian Pharaoh that was not happy about that. That was jealous because Israel was being prospered more than Egypt of anti-Semitism. And then as they left that and went back to the land that they had before they left to come to Egypt, that is where they had to fight all of these other kings and so on and so forth. And we just see all throughout the historical account, not just as written in the Old Testament, but even with historians, where Israel, people were always trying to conquer Israel. Whether it was Alexander the Great, whether it was the Romans, whether it was the Assyrians, whether it was Babylon, whether it was the Medes and Persians, there was always this thing of trying to conquer Israel. And so after the temple was destroyed in AD 72, and the Jews were kind of dispersed to the outer lands, and a lot of them went up into Europe, and some went a little further east, and you see this development over time where that land is being fought for. When you go through the Crusades and all of that, you had, Europe that was coming down and trying to capture Jerusalem for Christianity. You had people like Salahuddin and the Muslim factions that were trying to come in and capture Jerusalem for Muhammad. You had all of these other, and the Jews were just kind of caught in the middle of all this. But so it works itself out over time where we get into 1930s, and there are so many. I looked it up, and there are pages and pages and pages and pages of just attacks on the Jews and on Israel over the course of history. The list was longer than I even knew, and unfortunately, it always seems to be the Jews.
Okay, let me ask this. But is the Jews, quote unquote, there's this feeling that the Jews control money, control banks, control media, where does that come from?
Well, in some aspects they do, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. A promise was made to Abraham that, you shall be the head and not the tail. You shall be above and not beneath. That is a prophetic word that God gave to Abraham in the Old Testament. The Jews have always believed that God would bless them. And so they strove to be doctors and bankers and whatever, right? And they have been successful. Now, do they rule the world? Have they taken over the world? No. Obviously, if they rule the world, there wouldn't be all of this anti-Semitism that comes after them periodically, right? And that wasn't Hitler's thing. I mean, Hitler didn't come after the Jews. He wanted racial purity, and it wasn't because the Jews were super successful in Germany. I mean, they were living in ghettos eventually.
The Jews aren't the only people he went after.
No, he went after Christians. He went after homosexuals. He went after many different
mentally
groups.
Disabled.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's one reason why I love Jesse Owens so much, because he just stuck it right to Hitler.
Yeah, and who beat Max Schmeling? It was Joe Louis. Knocked the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Well, although, I mean, Max was not a Hitler supporter, so I don't want to make that. Okay, so I understand the history.
But I guess to sum it up, it's a spiritual problem. If you believe this kind of thing, which I do, that there is a spiritual realm outside of our physical realm, and that God, cast Lucifer down because he was full of pride and said, I can do a better job than God. I could be God. Cast him, a third of the angels down. You have these demons, and it talks about in the Bible different levels of demons, like a hierarchy, if you will, just like we have kings and princes and whatever. They also have authorities and rulers, and so there's strongholds of demonic activity that are created. That anti-Semitism is one of those, and that's why it always comes back, because it is old as the ages, and there's no reason for it, and there seems to be no cure for it either. It's not a problem that we can just solve as human beings. It's outside of us.
Okay. A lot of what you're saying here I didn't know. Some of it I did.
Yeah.
If I walked up to a 19-year-old at a college and asked them why they're an anti-Semite, what would their answer be?
I'm not an anti-Semite. You're fill in the blank, whatever they want to call you.
Why do they hate Jews? Or maybe hate's the wrong word. Why do they... Because so from a historical perspective, people have been in religious wars since the beginning of time.
Right.
Okay? But what is it about the not only the hatred, but the tolerance of the hatred towards Jews, because the same people who have that feeling would never accept that on another sector of society.
Right.
If you walk on a college campus and treated black people that way, you'd be expelled.
Absolutely.
So what is it with the Jewish religion that brings out not only the, I would argue, hate, but the tolerance of the hate? See, that's what I can't put my finger on.
Exactly. Although there's tolerance for hate of men, there's tolerance of hate for white people, right? But with Jews, I believe it's different because it is an older issue. It goes back thousands of years because of this spiritual aspect to it.
Okay, but if you're a 20-year-old college student holding up a sign, a pro-Hamas sign, what's your reasoning for doing it? They don't know anything about history. They've never been to a church. What?
Because they're oppressors. Because the media tells them that they're oppressors.
It's the world has oppressed and the oppressors.
Yep.
And
that's all it is.
You're going to hate the perceived oppressors and side with the so-called oppressed.
Because they're told that there's a genocide in Gaza, which there's not. Right.
Nobody knows the meaning of a word genocide.
No.
I mean, that word is so misused.
Yes.
But I guess what I don't get is what is the... I get told by people on the other side, to preach love and preach tolerance, and I can't judge anybody, and if a 5-year-old boy wants to be a girl, I have no right to say anything. But when it comes to Jewish, you had the president of what, MIT or Harvard or whatever saying, there's some anti-Semitism going on, but as long as nobody gets killed, we're just gonna sit here and ignore it.
Right.
And I sit there and I say, wait a minute. It's just as wrong to do that to a Jewish student can't go to English class without being harassed by somebody. If that were a homosexual, that wouldn't be allowed for 5 seconds.
Right.
Why is it different? And what do these Jewish students have to do with a genocide 5,000 miles away?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, you're right. The rising anti-Semitism, not just here, but around the world, is really getting... I would say it's the worst I've ever seen it.
Yes.
It may be worse than the 1930s. It may be.
When you look at it globally, I believe that's true. Now, the height of anti-Semitism within Germany, and the German Empire during World War II, obviously we're not putting people into ovens, and we're not,
Stalin was quite an anti-Semite.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Of course he was.
It was pretty... I mean...
The Jews were treated horribly in Russia or the Soviet Union after World War II.
Everybody was, but I mean, the gulags but I mean, I just the free thought of it and the the acceptance of it is something I can't understand.
Yeah. I can't understand either, but think about it. I guess these kids go to school, right? And they come in unassuming, thinking that, oh, I've got to go to college in order to get a job. So they go to university, and the university is filled with liberal professors, not just liberal professors, but professors, especially in the Ivy League schools, that were radicals back in the 1960s that wanted to tear down America, that wanted to tear down the Western way of life, you know, and you look at the Western way of life, it's the Judeo-Christian ethics that gave us what we have. And until you tear that down, you can't create a new socialist or communist utopia, right? So you've got these radicals that were like in SDS and things like that, where they were firebombing places back in the 60s. They were, you know, these people have all gone into higher education.
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I think some of them have, and I don't know that. I don't know that that's true on every college campus. It probably is, generally speaking.
Well, especially in the Ivy League.
Yeah, but, I mean, okay. So that explains an idiot 19-year-old that's going to college.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain the rest of the world.
No,
it doesn't explain Western Europe, which is highly anti-Semitic. It does not explain the mainstream media. It doesn't explain the Democratic Party. They didn't all go to Harvard. Okay,
Nope.
It doesn't explain why. I mean, I think that's a factor, but I guess I just come back to, why is it tolerated against Jews and against nobody else? That's what I can't understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the old Jim Crow days where jury nullification or you know, tolerance of violence against blacks was sort of, everybody looked the other way, and blacks were treated as, you know, less than human beings, and that's kind of what we're doing to Jewish people now to a degree. I mean, it's,
right.
The problem is if it doesn't stop, it's going to escalate, and it's been escalating. I'll tell you what I'm really worried about. Because the World War II generation is gone. They're dead.
Yeah.
They're all dead now. Okay? And if they're alive, they're 110 and they don't know, you know, they're like Joe Biden, they don't know they're alive. Where's Holocaust denying going to go?
Yeah.
Hey, the people who were in the camps are dead now.
Right.
Or they're 110.
Some of them were younger.
Well, that's true. Some of them were kids.
The lady that just got firebombed by that Egyptian crazy was 88.
Okay.
So
born in what, the 30s?
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much dying out. Let's just say another 10 years, they're all gone.
Right.
Where does Holocaust denying go in this country? It's going to start in academia.
Yeah.
Here's something really scary.
It already has.
Yeah, The Guardian. And this is, again, no right-wing publication, said that of young people, Gen Zers, 20% in this poll did not believe the Holocaust happened.
That's crazy.
And almost 2/3 of them have a negative opinion of Jewish and the Jewish religion. That's from The Guardian, which...
I bet you they couldn't name one thing about the Jewish religion.
I bet they couldn't. But what they can do is you know, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to ask them, okay, so in Judaism, why do they practice Hanukkah? How about the Festival of Shelters? What's the reason for that? You know, that was another extinction event.
Yeah,
you know,
the same survey said that 60% of millennials and Gen Zers were not aware that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
That's nuts.
Yeah, 24 of that percent. The exact number is 24% of them believe that the Holocaust might be a myth or that accounts of it are exaggerated. I want to say it correctly. So 1 out of 5.
There's records that go back, again, thousands of years.
Go to the Nuremberg trials and watch the evidence that was presented.
The whole book of Esther in the Bible is about a guy that he had a relative, Agag, that would come against the Jews all the time and mutilate them, and his relative, like generations later, Haman, tricked the king Ahasuerus into signing a decree, or allowing him with the king's signet ring to sign a decree that all Jews were allowed to be killed within the kingdom. I mean, this has been going on forever.
Well, I mean, let's bring it up to current times. I mean, we had the October 7th, I guess that was 2023, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Hamas attack. And, of course, you knew Israel wasn't going to sit there, and they're very sophisticated militarily.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew that because I want to bring it into politics, too, because ever since then, there's been an undeclared. Well, there's been a war going on there forever, but in escalation, let's put it, in hostilities over in that region,
right?
And we had an administration, President Biden or whoever was running it. I'm really not convinced he. Especially in the area of foreign policy, I'm not convinced Biden had much to do with his own administration.
No.
But that continued to send out mixed messages.
Yeah.
You know, they support Israel, but they don't. They condemn the violence, but they sort of don't.
Right.
They watched things escalate on college campuses and did nothing. What is going on and Jewish people have voted Democratic overwhelmingly for a long time, and for whatever reason.
Which I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. I've never understood it.
I don't know why you would vote for somebody that, a vote for me is a vote for a punch in the face for you.
Yeah, it hasn't always been that way with the Democratic Party, but it's changed. Even in 2024, I mean, they voted, Harris won the Jewish vote.
Right.
I'm baffled at it because she was probably the most anti-Israel candidate I've ever. I mean, I can't imagine Bill Clinton taking Kamala Harris's stand, or I mean, I just can't. I can't even. You know, you go back to, and I know it's a different party, but you go back to older Democrats, and I can't imagine them playing both sides of that issue. But if you look at that party, what has happened? Why are the Democrats embracing the anti-Israel line?
They have to. I mean, they are afraid of people like AOC. They're afraid of people like Jasmine Crockett.
Who are they? I mean,
they're loud and they might say
who's
things
Jasmine
that aren't
Crockett?
nice.
I mean, what? Yeah, Chuck Schumer, and I'm scared of her.
Well,
you know what I do?
Chuck Schumer is.
I'd assign her to the. You want to speak out like that? Tell you what, you can be on the podunk committee,
the dishwashing committee.
You can. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be afraid of them whatsoever. I don't know what kind of a constituency they really have. I just think, again, you have a leadership vacuum in the Democratic Party, and it's going to get filled by somebody.
Right.
Someone's going to fill it. And who's filling it right now is whoever is the loudest.
Yep.
So, but I'm afraid of AOC. I mean, I don't think she could beat a 10-year-old at Scrabble. What are you scared of? I mean, I'm just shocked at it.
Yeah.
But I still don't get, like, look, again, you want to disagree with some of Israel's tactics, or you want to try to make a peace of it. I can understand that. what I can't understand is what side do we pick here? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what we should do here. We'll take whatever audience we're in front of. We'll that's the part I don't get.
Right. And if you do your research, you have Israel, who this is their land. It was given to them in 48, right? And they left an area in Gaza. They left, the West Bank is kind of whatever. And
it's not a very big country.
No, it's not very big. But and you're kind of crowding everybody in there. I understand that. But you have the Jews that try to mind their own business, and they do help out in the area with the Gaza Strip, with the West Bank, which is called Judea and Samaria traditionally. Judea, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you find Judea and Samaria all throughout the Bible. So it's been there a while. You have a group in the Gaza that was led by Yasser Arafat, the PLO, before Hamas. And it has been nothing but trouble and terrorism as long as any of us can remember. And you go back and you look at they've received all of this money to help with humanitarian aid. It's gone into digging tunnels beneath the city so that they can hide, their families can hide. It's gone into getting weapons, working with Iran, getting rockets that can be propelled into Israel. They have continually gone into Israel, kidnapped people, but yet...
And use civilians as a shield.
Yeah, and use civilians as a shield. They're kids. I mean, they'll put their own terrorist base underneath a school or in the midst of an apartment building because they don't care about their own people, and their people are starving, and the leadership is taking all the money. They're taking all of the humanitarian aid that's coming in right now, and they're putting the bulk of it on the black market so that they can get money to build more weapons.
Well, and not only that, it's kind of like what's been happening in Africa for the longest time.
Yeah.
Africa's becomes the world's biggest welfare state, but so much of the money in humanitarian aid is being stolen. It's being, you've got people at war with each other over there. We don't talk about it much.
Exactly. It's happening.
But it is happening. That's why things don't change over there. Because they need capitalism and they need democracy. They don't need handouts.
Right.
And as well intentioned as it is. I mean, the Palestinians, whoever they are exactly, have been some of the biggest welfare recipients since 1948, but the money's not going to them.
Right.
Or drips of it are. And so there's this myth out there that, but why does Israel get the blame for that? That's what I don't get. It's like it's Hamas and Hezbollah that are hiding behind the civilians.
Yeah.
It's them that are putting them out in harm's way knowingly. Israel isn't trying to kill them.
But because they do die, that's what gets reported. I think.
So what's with our media? Why don't they tell the truth?
That's
why. What's the incentive to go out and lie about it?
They don't tell the truth about anything. Why would they?
Of course they don't.
You have
Joe Scarborough still employed.
Right.
Do I say more?
You've got the radicals that are in academia, and I think you've got some of those same radicals that are producers and people of power in the networks, and they shape the narrative. It's not the yokels you see on TV.
No, so the Jews
it's the people that are talking into their ears.
So the Jews aren't controlling everything.
Right.
If they were, then there'd probably be a different result, right?
Right.
I don't know. I worry about where it's going because, I really worried about it in Europe. That's a place I'm really worried about it. I don't know that. I've seen very few people on one side condemn this stuff. I've seen a handful, not many. I mean, or some people will do it, but kind of do it with an asterisk.
Yeah.
But Europe is where, boy, and every day Europe becomes less European.
Yes.
Where do you see anti-Semitism in France and in countries like that? England is becoming very... It's changed a lot. Anybody who's tried to change things back...
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, Theresa May, they've all been ousted.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be there's an undercurrent that's, I think there's like a Trump movement over there that's starting to spur in some countries. But I mean, I am really concerned about anti-Semitism over there.
Yes. I am too, I mean, there is they go by a different name, but there is an actual Nazi party in Germany again.
Wow.
And it's not good, but like you say, with all of the open borders in Europe, it's dangerous for white people. It's dangerous for Jews. It's dangerous for Christians. It's getting dangerous for women because the people that are coming in from the countries they're coming in from, right?
Women are second-class citizens.
Absolutely.
Here's the other thing, too. This is a product of socialism because they've wanted... Why do they have open borders? Because of all the handouts. They couldn't pay for them. They didn't have enough workers. They didn't have enough, and so they let every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the country, and now the countries have totally changed culturally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's an underrated thing. This is socialism's partly caused this.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's, man, is it worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, in Germany, it's the Alternative for Germany Party, AfD, and they use Nazi slogans. They trivialize the Holocaust. It's spreading. And especially when you have Europe. I think a lot of their fighters came here and spurred the formation of our nation, and in Europe, I think you were left with a lot of the more I don't want to say peace-loving people, because that's not it. It's people that are willing to do what they're told, right?
The sheep.
Yeah, people that are willing to listen to the World Economic Forum, people that are willing to listen to the European Union.
There's no skepticism.
Yeah.
That's changing, I think.
I think so, a little bit, but they still, because they don't have that American DNA, I don't know if they have it in them.
You're right.
To really pull it off,
yeah,
and I'm worried.
That's true. The American DNA is what they need.
Yeah.
Need it badly. I think they could. See, here's the problem. The problem is in countries over there, they're literally, their best days are all 200 years ago.
Yeah.
You look at England, France, and you think, okay, what's their economy? They what's their military? The future of the world's Asia and the United States. Mm-hmm. That's the European Union get formed because everybody's economy was going to collapse without it.
Yeah.
And they weren't smart enough to recognize that. So they said, well, we'll all just die together.
Right. And that's
except England that got out of it. But they still are paying the price for the years of not.
They're still going along with a lot of the European Union ideals, even if they're outside of the European Union.
They are, depending on who's in charge. But they are to a degree. Remember, there's 3 major parties in England,
right? And
you've kind of got. They're kind of they're not defined like we define them here. I mean, it's not as
no. I mean, the Labour Party is far left,
right? you've got the in-between party.
Yeah.
And then you've got, I can't remember what that's called, Tony Blair's old party. And then you've got the Margaret Thatcher, John Major, which is Theresa May, Boris Johnson. And then you've got the far left. I don't know what they call them all, but you've got three. Yeah. You've got the in-betweens, the far left, and the conservative party. But the conservatives aren't as conservative as I like to see. The left-wingers are far more left.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not quite comparable to the United States that way.
Yeah.
I think the resistance, though, I think what's happened is because the conservative leaders have been removed when they've wandered off the reservation or they've tried to change things. Mm-hmm. That's created another power vacuum in England because it's like, it's going to take a Donald Trump to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to take a Reagan, and maybe Boris and Theresa May weren't up to the job. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to say. I know that they tried.
Yeah.
But look, there's some hope that they're out of that since Brexit. But I do agree that they're left of where they need to be.
Right.
And I really think they need to focus on their economy. They need to focus on, but I go back to anti-Semitism. What is with the Muslim population in the migration to Western Europe? Mm-hmm. What's behind that? What's the impetus behind that?
I think just control, because it's not like they're fleeing the theocracies of Islam because they're trying to set that up wherever they go.
Well, maybe they're not. They're a little more freer in those countries in Western Europe.
Yeah, but they're trying to bring Sharia law to those countries. You look at Sweden and the number of rapes and murders that have gone up in Sweden, in France, in Holland, country after country after country. They are having problems. People that aren't having problems are those that have closed their borders, like Hungary.
Who else is doing that over there? Is there? I find Eastern Europe to be more tougher than Western Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because freedom's a little newer.
Could be.
To those citizens, I mean, when you and I were growing up, they were under communism.
Yeah, but that depends on the country too, right? Because you have...
Sure.
They've
broken up into little countries too from that time.
Some of them are more free than others. Albania is a Muslim country. You have
Czechoslovakia. How many countries did that get broken into? Like 12.
It was 12.
No, but it's Bosnia. It's
Slovenia, Herzegovina. Yeah.
Croatia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
the Czech Republic.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. But then you have like Belarus, which is in league with Russia,
right?
So it's Eastern Europe is a
lot of mix over there too.
Yeah. So
I mean, I guess that's true. But the Muslim migration over there is just I am just floored at it. And you know what? I get the crap from people. You're a racist. You're just, it's too much change. It is too much change in too short of a time.
A country loses its national identity.
You don't have one.
Yeah.
You might as well just erase borders. Might as well just not have a country.
Right.
Just don't have a country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm somebody who believes in American exceptionalism, and I think that's something that was on the decline. Maybe it's on the upswing again. But, there's why doesn't a country, like, I come back to this. Why does Germany tolerate American troops in their country?
Yeah.
I don't think the East Germans are about to invade. Why are they there? Why do we tolerate it?
Yeah. I suppose they want the help, because of NATO.
It's got to be demoralizing, though. I can't imagine having, like, Italian troops, at a base 5 miles from my house.
Right.
I mean,
And that'd be against the law here.
well, yeah, it would be. But I wouldn't put it past anybody to do it anyway.
Right. I mean, there's been reports of those kind of things. I don't know that they've ever been fully substantiated, but
Get that tinfoil hat, Jay. I think they have. It's over in Area 51 over there. I was
Is
over
that
there
where-
the other day.
really,
Yeah, absolutely. It's all true. Everything's true.
all of it, huh?
I think so.
Well,
So
Yes.
let me just get back to anti-Semitism. So how does this turn around? I mean, how does this, how do we turn the tide against anti-Semitism? Because it seems like some people are trying, but it's not slowing down very much.
right.
The violence continues to get higher, not lower. There's intolerance on college campuses. You have an entire political party that plays both sides.
Yeah.
Depending on what audience there's in front. And again, there's a handful that don't do that. Not many.
Right. Well, it's tricky, and that is, you take the good with the bad in the First Amendment. People have a right to speak their opinions, even if they're horrendous opinions, right?
But Jay, back
Yes.
up a second.
Yeah.
You want to disagree with the way Israel is going about fighting this war. That is your prerogative.
Yep.
You are not entitled to wish death on an entire class of people,
Right.
or prevent another person who's paying to go to a university or sitting at home doing nothing. There's nothing to do with what's going on over
Right.
there. And I just want to stress that I'm with you. I'm pretty close to a First Amendment absolutist. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty close. Maybe not quite where some people are, but I'm 80% of the way there. I don't like terming speech I don't like as hate speech. Okay? But the line is blurring so much right now
Yes.
that I don't. Are the courts going to have to step in? Where do we go?
I don't think the courts can solve this. I think that's part of it, though. When you have an attack like we did this past weekend, where you have this Egyptian guy that has a flamethrower and Molotov cocktails, and he's firebombing Jews. Yes, that guy needs to go to prison for a very long time, and his family needs to be shipped back to Egypt. The courts need to do the right thing. That's part of it. There needs to be a little bit of fear, not to speak out, but fear to actually take action or make a direct threat against another group of people. There needs to be some fear. There also needs to be shame, right? As much as people have a right to say, I wish this group of people didn't exist, no matter how horrendous that is, there should be this other group of people that has a right to say your point of view is awful.
Yeah.
And you're a terrible human being for right. We don't cancel people, right? But there should be a level of shame that exists with holding aberrant positions.
Well, right. It's like supporting slavery
Pedophilia.
or supporting. Yeah, I mean, there should be something should be so easy to condemn.
Yeah.
And I always come back to I don't understand why it's so hard. I'm not the biggest gay rights supporter in the world, but I would never stand in the way of a gay person's ability to make a living. I would never try to shut them up. I would never try. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I have my opinions on homosexuality, but I would never stop them from, their rights are, their constitutional rights are equal to mine.
Right.
So if you believe that, then, it shouldn't be hard to, and I just, again, the more this is tolerated, the more this is going to grow.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the honest truth
People will
about
be
it.
emboldened.
Yeah, if there's no consequences for doing something, whether that's even if that's just public shame.
Yeah.
You know, like there was a time when if you were on welfare, it was kind of you didn't want to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
There was a ostrich, and I think, look, I don't want to make people feel like crap, but I want people to realize that, hey, this isn't a lifestyle. You shouldn't be proud of this.
No.
I get stuff happens to people, but that shame is an incentive to get off of it, in my opinion.
Now, there should be no less shame attached to an anti-Semite than there should be attached to someone that is interested in the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, exactly. All right. There shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be.
I don't know. I don't understand it. And I can't fathom what's going on in the heads and again, I still come back to you leaders of the Democratic Party, really AOC you're afraid of?
Yeah.
You know, John Fetterman put it best. Let's go see AOC try to win Pennsylvania. Yeah. Good luck. You know, I mean, it's just kind of, it's mind-blowing that you're scared of a 30-year-old bartender. I don't know. I just...
Yeah.
It's just me, but...
Yes, indeed. I don't know, but I am disappointed in how far this has gotten along, that people are refusing to shut it down, that the educational institutions are sticking up for those that are coming against Jewish people, that are coming and threatening Jewish people. And I am really disappointed. There's a number of conservatives too that have begun to speak out against Israel, and we cannot begin to go down that path. We are the only friend they have left.
Yeah, what is with that?
I don't know. I don't understand it. And as a Christian, it says in Scripture that if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. That doesn't mean you agree with that. You don't turn your back on them. And that is partially, I think, that has to do with anti-Semitism. That if you allow yourself to get in the camp that hates them, you're not going to stand for them when that anti-Semitism comes around and looks to extinguish the Jews.
Do you think part of the sort of conservative angst against Israel is directed at getting the United States more and more involved, and they don't want that? I think Israel maybe, I mean, some people think they want to draw Iran into a conflict. Do you think that's it? Or do you think, what do you think's behind the sort of right wing,
Maybe. Here's the problem. Iran wants to see them blown off the map.
True.
Right?
Whether Iran has been saying that for I don't know how long now, it's kind of like, all right, dude, you've been developing a nuclear weapon since, the mullahs took over in 1979. Some days I think they're close. Some days I think it's bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what is there something about conservatives not wanting to be drawn into a larger conflict? Or, I mean, it's sort of, because I think among the right, I think it is waning a little bit. It's not anti-Semitism on the right, but it's kind of, I don't want to get involved over there. I mean, what is that?
No, I don't want to get involved in there.
I don't want to get into a war. No, right. But I don't think it's hard to pick sides over there, and so
it shouldn't be.
I don't. What's with it on the right though?
I don't know. I don't get it.
But you've got extremes everywhere. You got Mark Levin wanting to start a war with Iran, and going on and on about it, at the point where, and I like Mark, but he was a little bit, whoa, dude, hold on here.
Yeah.
And then you've got kind of, I don't want to put a label on, they're the libertarian wing or the non-intervention. I don't like labeling people like that, but you kind of have them on the right saying, we don't need to worry about that, and we don't need to,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's become. I mean, I think maybe some people are just sick of it. Some people are just sick of being the world's policeman. They're sick of being drawn into every conflict.
And I understand that.
I mean, you watch Ukraine hit Russia with our weapons, and you're going to go, boy, yikes.
Yes.
What do you think's going on there?
I don't know.
That's
I'm not
off
sure.
the subject.
I'm
What do
not
you
sure
think?
where those drones came from. If they were a Western European gift, or if they came from us, or how all that came about. That was definitely a big blow to Russia, but that's also a big risk because nuclear war is. We're sitting right on a head of a needle.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always a risk. I don't think Russia's as strong as everybody that the saber rattlers think they are. But question becomes, is there a peace? I mean, President Trump's worked overtime to get a peace over there. And unfortunately, I don't know that that's going to happen.
Putin seems pretty content.
Again, I think Putin wants an out.
Yeah.
I think it's like China with the trade war. They don't want to be seen as look. Putin's hold on his country is all about power, the perception of that, the perception of nobody tells me what to do, blah blah blah.
Right.
He's not going to capitulate, and I think that's what we can't thread that needle. I think it's going to be seen by look. There's people inside Russia who want to nuke everybody. Yeah, just like there are people telling Khrushchev in the Cuban Missile Crisis, do it, do a first strike. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's people telling Putin that too.
Probably
he ain't the only crazy one over there. Okay, so he has to. Every dictator has to walk. There's a little bit of a tightrope you have to walk. And I think he can't be seen as Trump leading him around by the horn.
Right.
And there has to be a win for him. Somehow he has to walk away the winner. Even though my peace would be the win.
Right.
But somehow that has to happen. And I think they can't get to what that would be exactly. So I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I don't know that sanctions and stuff, that's an escalation. I don't know that that's the smart way to go. You see Trump resistant to that. I think he gets it. I think he's he's kissing Putin's ass. No, he's not. He's trying not to escalate this.
Right.
But you arm the Ukrainians more, or you put on sanctions, you're escalating it.
Yeah.
You took the next step.
But we're involved now because we've got business interests in Ukraine, and so
which I still agree with. I still think that we should be trading with them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think that that really involves us, whether Ukraine does something dumb or Russia does something dumb. So I don't know, man. When the Soviet Union fell, I thought these problems would go away. Yeah, me too.
And what was that? 92?
Yeah.
91? It just seems like, seems like it's only gotten more complicated. I'll tell you, the world's scarier, too. I mean, the amount of countries that have nuclear weapons. I mean, there was a time it was 2 countries.
Yeah.
And the threat of mutual annihilation sort of kept... Look at India and Pakistan. Nuclear war could have broken out right there.
I know.
So that's India and Pakistan?
Yeah. That's
really scary.
Yeah. That's not necessarily level heads prevailing there.
Ain't too many level heads over there, I don't think. Well, I don't understand why they don't like each other. That's what I don't like either.
They're fighting over the whole Kashmir region.
Okay.
They keep taking it back and forth.
keep it at your place for a week. I'll keep it at my place.
There we go. So one of them could get weekends.
Exactly.
Yes. See, we just solved it.
Hearing.
We just solved it.
Jay,
yes.
Good thoughts as always.
Yeah.
Styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Give us the old sign. You gave us a little Bible lesson, Jay. Now we need the sign-off sermon.
All right. Well, I guess I said a lot of it earlier. The whole anti-Semitism thing goes back thousands of years. There's biblical proof of it. There is historical proof out of it outside of the Bible. It is a spiritual fight that we can't ever win in the physical. But part of that is us just becoming better people, returning back to God and getting back into church and restoring the Judeo-Christian values that we were raised with. I mean, yes, as much as stricter penalties for violent attacks in our courts, coupled with good old-fashioned shame when people have aberrant beliefs, and finding within our educational structure a better method to teach, like telling history accurately and telling students what's actually going on instead of some made up version of it that only slants to the left. If we can actually get all of that working and then return to church, return to God, restore ourselves to those values that we grew up with, that we knew to be true, that before we walked away from them, I see that we can come at this and maybe in our children's lifetime we can see a change, because we began to see attitudes there was strife and there was trouble in relations between white people and black people in this country, and I think a lot of that has dissipated. I think Barack Obama did a lot to stir that back up, and so I think it was halted for a while, but I believe that we were headed in a great direction. I believe we're restoring some of that now, and it's no different. I believe that within our kids' lifetime, we could see the end of anti-Semitism here, at least in this nation, if we were to put those things into place. But we've got to want to. If we're fine to just let things go and not want to get involved, not get our hands dirty, evil is always looking for a vacuum to fill. So if we do nothing, what's the old saying? All that's needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Evil loves a vacuum because it will fill it. Instead, we have to fill the vacuum. We have to bring our good deeds. We have to teach our kids the right way. We have to become entertainment. We have to run our businesses in an ethical way. And if we can do that, if indeed we can do that, we have a chance. And I know it sounds like a large order of business, especially when we look at a conservative-led Senate and House of Representatives that are not getting it done. We should be able to come together on these things that we agree on and make it all happen. And if people won't do it, they need to be replaced. And maybe that's your job. Maybe that's your calling. Maybe you need to stand up and say, I'm willing to primary somebody in my area that is not doing the right thing. And by all means, we'd love to help you with that. In fact, we've had a little bit of experience in that. Just saying. So you can get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. Let us know the things that are happening in your neck of the woods that need some sunlight on them. If you have a question, you want to know how to do something that you don't know what to do and you feel stuck, get a hold of us. We've been around a long time. We've helped a lot of people, and we'd love to help you. All right. That's it for another week. We thank you. Please share this podcast far and wide so that we can have the maximum impact in the state of Minnesota and change this state from the inside out. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.